say, you know it burns my ass. Fire does. It's not good for anyone,
To read a chapter from my book, which is a compilation of stories that I've written for Naked Sunfish, and if you're interested, there's cards on the table here. This is called Mr. Wick, Part 1. During my senior year at college, followed by the first year of my marriage, also known as the What the Hell Do I Do Now year, I drove kids to and from school in a Volkswagen microbus. For those too young to remember the microbus, suffice it to say it was a van with an air-cooled, low-horsepower engine in the rear. I was a driver for the Franklin County Crippled Children's School. Crippled. When was the last time you heard that word? I believe it's simply called Easter seals now. And my dog Daisy rode with me. The kids loved Daisy. My bus was dubbed the Daisy Bus. But that's the story for another day. The kids were instructed to call me Mr. Rick, and they did. I had one of the longest routes that took me outside of the county, so I got to know these kids pretty well. I still fondly recall many of them. They were, after all, just kids. That's how they looked at themselves. There was Chris, the boy born without any legs, as well as a mild speech impediment. He had artificial legs the school had made for him. His speech was out of their league, I suppose, but he could walk with a cane. Perched atop these prosthetics, ambling through the school's hallways, he looked like a tiny British aristocrat. But Chris hated his legs. He would say to me, "Mr. Wick, I hate these legs." When I asked him why, he replied, "I can't ride my big wheel with them, but I can sit on the seat without them and use my arm to crank the pedal. I can go fast, faster than the kids with legs." Sometimes when the microbus would go around the corner, Chris's legs would fall over with a thud, and I'd hear from the back, "Mr. Wick, my legs fell over." So I'd reassure this little gentleman I would correct the situation at the next stop. There was Tina, Chris's girlfriend. Tina couldn't talk. She was mute because once her young mother gave her too much aspirin when she was an infant. It burned out something in her brain that affected her speech. Chris loved her all the same. The two of them would sit together directly behind me in the microbus, Chris's legs standing in front of them, and sing along to the radio. At the time, Helen Reddy had a hit song that I couldn't stand. But Tina and Chris, however, loved it. And I could never switch the radio station before they recognized it. I'd thrust my hand to the radio and change the station, only to hear Tina's, and Chris would politely say, "Mr. Wick, please put it back on Helen Reddy." I drove a lot of kids born with brain and spinal problems. These are the children you will never ever see on a poster. They aren't considered cute by most people's standards. And at least back then, they didn't live to see their 8th birthday. 3 of these severely handicapped kids died in the 2 years I drove them to and from school. And 2 children were autistic. The one boy I heard say a few words to his mother once. The other boy, Jimmy, said only 1 word. He would look me straight in the eye, his eyes wide and wild, thrust his tiny fist violently into the air and proclaim, "Go! Go! Go!" He was a boy of few words, but I liked him. He had style. The very first day I drove this group of kids home from a day at the crippled school, my boss showed me how to put seatbelts on, strap the kids in the car seats, the ones with the short lives and the no chance to be a poster child. Once I had everyone ready, I made my way to the driver's seat, fastened my own seatbelt, and turned on the radio. I had never done the route before and was more than a little nervous. "Go!" Jimmy cried from the farthest seat back, and off we went. Using my crib notes, I tried to navigate our virgin journey through neighborhoods as Chris and Tina serenaded us from the middle of the bus. "Gypsies, tramps, and thieves," Chris would sing enthusiastically, accompanied by Tina's uhs. But I was a nervous wreck, and I invariably got lost. A couple times I heard, "Mr. Wick, my legs fell over again," and I'd stand them upright at the next stop. Why we just didn't decide to lay them down, I can't tell you. As I began to get way over schedule, a driver can't be taking a handicapped kid home at 6 p.m. when school let out at 3 now, can he? I got a little frantic. Hey, I was only 21 years old. Upon realizing I had once again missed a turn, I whipped the VW microbus into a driveway. Blam! Chris's legs hit the floor. Then, from the back again, I heard, "Mr. Wick." "I know, Chris. Your legs fell over," I replied. "It's not my legs, Mr. Wick. It's Jimmy. I think he needs your help." I looked to the very back seat. Jimmy was dangling, upside down, hanging in midair by his seatbelt. It probably wasn't, but I could have swore his face was blue. He had only been that way a minute. Still, I almost panicked. I ran to the back of the little bus, sat Jimmy upright, hugged him, and asked him if he was okay. Jimmy looked up at me, his eyes wide and wild, violently thrust his little fist into the air, and proclaimed for all of us to hear, "Go!" And that's what we did.